The conversation moves from the market to the organized marketplace. Mr. Yele Okeremi heads a company that is involved in the development of software for use in the financial sector. This affords him information on organizations within and outside the country in various sectors.
In terms of spending power, I mean, that goes without saying. To my mind, there's been very little stimulation to the private sector. Now, I mean, the government would have its own reasoning and excuses about, oh, the oil prices and this, that, and that. But these are things we have been speaking about for several years, about the oil prices. Why should the nation continue to depend on variables that they do not control? And so if after 3 years we are still complaining, and one thing that's the worst of it for me as an individual, it's bad enough that people are not able to spend money. Very many companies that you probably already know have shut down. We are still keeping afloat. Very many companies that have not shut down have downsized. But those are still fine because those are still things that we see. But it's worse in my mind when in 3 years we are still blaming past leadership. Now that alone is psychologically worrisome to me. And of course, you would agree with me that psychology of any entrepreneur or anybody affects his decision making. It makes me feel very sick. It takes energy away from me. It brings despondency to me. It brings despair. And I feel very, very unhappy about it. So if I'm scoring this government on achievements on the business front, it's negative. Absolutely. It's an F.
Titilayo Falaye has made the most of the situation. She says she's had to think outside the box in the midst of unmet expectations, and that has led her to the path of e-cab, among other innovative ways to earn a living.
The thing is this, okay, I was expecting a better economy by now. I was expecting that we'll have a stable electricity, and all the basic things, basic amenities, okay, but look at where we are. Electricity as at today is the same story we've been saying 20, 30 years ago. And then, I was expecting so much. Maybe I was too expectant, okay, of this administration, but really I was expecting so much. I was expecting a major change, okay? Because for me, I can't just fold my hands and just be blaming the government. Okay, we have to do something for ourselves because we are the government. If what we're expecting from the government is not forthcoming, then what are we willing to do? We just have to get up and do something for ourselves. So we don't fold our hands and expect miracle from the government. So Nigerian government has taught us that it doesn't work that way. So,
gentlemen, welcome. Thank you.
The Director of Strategic Communication of President Buhari's campaign organization, Festus Keyamo, attempts to balance the positive and negative sides of the views of Nigerians in assessing the present administration 3 years on.
Well, from the time where we reached the height of the recession till this time, the empirical evidence that prices have actually dropped. There's no doubt about that. The rate of inflation has come down drastically. It went up to 18% at the point, and now we are somewhere hovering around 12%, if I get my figures correctly. So the inflation you're talking about, it's in direct, relation to prices of ordinary goods in the market. So the truth of the matter is that the prices of goods in the market, have come down. When you say the ordinary people have not felt the impact, I don't know the yardstick you used to reach that conclusion, because from my own point of view, I have heard people who have reacted to the government social intervention programs, okay, the Empower program, the government enterprises and empowerment program, the conditional cash transfer program, of course the school feeding program. I've heard ordinary people. It may not be widespread, may not be the entire country, but there is some progress in that area. We have so many people on those schemes already who are responding positively to this social intervention program by government. But generally, people even outside that program, like I said, prices are actually coming down. So you don't expect people to pour to the streets to say, hallelujah, prices have come down. You won't expect that. It is usual that it is a general complaint at all times. People will never say, hallelujah, we have arrived. Because the point is that we can never arrive there. Even in the most developed countries of the world, at the grassroots, you always want the best. They always want the best, but it's always a strive to do. For example, if you Google now and say, at a time when, Google and say the time when masses came together, or the masses came together to say, we are no longer suffering. You will just see image not found. I'm talking about from 1960 to now. Google anytime when it came to a point where they say Nigerians are no longer suffering. Nigerians are always suffering in that general context of that phrase. Even when we were talking about, there was a time IBB wrote a letter to Babangida, to Obasanjo in power. You remember in 2003, it was headline everywhere, where Babangida told him that Nigerians are suffering. Under Jonathan, under Yaradua, it was the general phrase, Nigerians are suffering. Under Jonathan, when they were saying it was the biggest economy, you heard the same thing, Nigerians are suffering. So it's a general phrase, but the point is that the general phrase is always, well, there. I'm not disputing it, but we must still look at the statistics.
The International Monetary Fund has said that Nigeria's growth would pick up to 2.1% in 2018, although they've warned that these commendable economic indices are not translating to improved fortunes for the average Nigerian.